All right, you clicked on the video. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. But now I need you to hit that subscribe button, and I need you to ring that bell so you can get notifications for when we post videos. And I need you to smash that like button. Clearly, I got way too animated, but I need you to smash that like button so we can see how far we can really take this video. We appreciate you. Enjoy the content. Moving forward here, let's jump into some of our main topics here. And the first one being vegan Batman is back.
Oh, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
So
we did a story a while back in which we talked about vegan Batman in one Robert Pattinson, and that I think you made the comments that he looks like he looks very slender, and he looks like he's going to be sort of like an emo Batman. And lo and behold, we get a story this past week from Cosmic Book News about Robert Pattinson not being able to bulk up, quote unquote, for the role, or having issues bulking up for the role. So I'll just read you a little bit of this and preface it with this. A major chunk of this story comes from a YouTuber. Her name's Grace Randolph. I don't necessarily care for Grace Randolph for a number of different reasons, but the chief of which is
most people named Grace are not actually that graceful.
Dude, how many times are you going to say?
Have you ever met a Grace that you've liked?
I haven't met too many Graces. The ones I have met, I don't think I really land on either side of it.
You don't
Whether
like
I don't like them or do.
Yeah.
Except for maybe this one. Yeah. But I've never met her. So
Graces usually aren't good people.
All right. So Grace Randolph, her takes on things as far as, like, because she does mainly, I think she does mainly like comic book news and shit. Her take on things, I feel like, to be blunt, are stupid. So take that with a grain of salt, because that's going to sort of pepper how we tackle the story. But a large chunk of this news comes from her. So in the article from Cosmic Book News, they quote Grace in saying that she says, "I think it's probably impossible for him to fully bulk up because he has just has a slight build. But I think it's hilarious. They're like, maybe if we gave him a few weeks, he might bulk up. If he hasn't bulked up by now, he's not going to bulk up. Just accept that you have a skinny Batman and deal with it." So I think it's funny. It's not like a huge delay. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, really. It's just a couple of weeks. So what happened is that the word, according to Grace, is that they are delaying the filming of the Batman from Matt Reeves because they want to give Robert Pattinson a little more time to put on some weight, put on some muscle, and I think, and in that same article that from Cosmic Book News, they even talk about how he himself has said he doesn't like to work out. Quote, and this is a quote from Pattinson himself, according to Cosmic Book News. I guess he's talking about working out in this case. "I didn't when I was younger, but now as I have kind of gotten older, I'm slowly getting aware of aging. So I'm kind of like, I got to put in some effort. Otherwise, I'm going to get a hip replacement," which is actually mad true. So I don't think this is a fucking big deal. Like, I think it's weird that they're delaying production in order. Like, it's like, dude, like, I think the jury's in. I don't think 2 or 3 weeks is gonna fucking help this dude look like he's fucking Henry Cavill playing Superman. Like, I think you've pretty much got what you got with fucking Robert Pattinson. But I think you should lean into it. Don't go for a fucking bulky Batman, because the fuck do you need a bulky Batman for? You had Ben Affleck, who looked like he put on 8,000 pounds of muscle.
Affleck was jacked.
Yo, he was jacked as shit.
But he looked good as Batman, right?
He did, but what I'm saying is, if you're going after a different vibe altogether, meaning that if he's going to be more of a detective, then just make him more of a detective. Like, there's no reason to have him look like he's going to fucking like beat up the entire mafia by himself.
Yes and no. So what we have in the Batman character is, first and foremost, he is a detective, right? But we know the Batman character. He does not have any superpowers, so he relies on his intellect, and he does have. I mean, he was trained by Ra's al Ghul, right? So he does have like hand-to-hand combat, heightened hand-to-hand combat ability. Sure. So you have to be able to sell, the combat aspect to his character. He's a detective first. He's an intellectual first, but he can, get down and dirty and throw hands as needed. You got to sell me that a little bit, right? Robert Pattinson, the Robert Pattinson we saw from Twilight. Was it Twilight? Yeah, from Twilight.
Yeah,
not going to sell it. So yes, you got to do some push-ups. You got to do some sit-ups. How much can you put up on the bench? You got to sell the character to me just a little bit.
I find that is strange, right? Because we didn't have a problem with, again, Matt Damon and the Firstborn Identity.
So, but they weren't superheroes, right? They were spies.
But that's exactly
who were who were trained.
Yeah, but that's who we're talking about. We're talking about Robert Pattinson as Batman, not as Superman, not as fucking whatever other, not Green Lantern or anything like that. Like, we're talking about him as the Caped Crusader, who
as Batman, a superhero.
Yeah, who can go hand to hand with people, but is not going to like take on 18 dudes at the same time, just like Ben Affleck did in Batman vs Superman, where he took down like an entire floor of dudes with guns, fucking automatic assault rifles.
One of the best.
That was one of the better scenes in the
that
film.
Scene. That Ben Affleck's fight scene in that movie was fucking incredible.
It was. But again, I don't think we're looking for that out of this incarnation.
Yeah, sure. And we've talked about this. This is a different story. I think who played the first Batman?
Ever?
No, not ever. Christian Bale, right? The more recent Batman.
The more recent Batman, sure.
Christian Bale.
And he put on weight.
Yeah. So Christian Bale, he put on a little bit of weight. He put on a little bit of muscle, but he was not like jacked by any means, right?
In that, in the Batman Begins, he was kind of jacked, and especially if you think about it in relation from
he was in shape. He was fit. He had a little bit of muscle. Okay. Jacked? No, I wouldn't give him jacked. Okay. So what we got from the Christian Bale Batman was like a slimmer, in shape, fit Batman who could sell the hand-to-hand combat, mostly because
but why would you need to put on weight in order to sell hand-to-hand combat? That's like, so for instance, right, you have a lot of dudes in UFC who look pretty skinny. They're in shape, meaning that like they look, got the six-pack and got the toned muscles, but they're not like big dudes, and they will fuck you up.
Yeah, they'll fuck up a guy their size, maybe a guy a little bit bigger who's not, a trained fighter, but they're not going to fuck. Like, if you're watching the UFC, you're 145 pound weight class fighter, right? They're not beating your 171 pound guy, right?
Yeah, but those are two people who we're saying that they're at even levels, right? Meaning that like they're both in the UFC, and you just go from one weight class to the other. Generally speaking, the heavier weight's probably going to win because they're just going to dominate.
Now, so let's say you take a 145 pound trained fighter,
double number 18. Yeah. I don't think Robert Pattinson's slim down a Batman should have, like, I won't have a problem watching that. Even if he's of the slimmer variety, I don't give a fuck. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be like, he looks like he's 165 soaking wet. Oh, I don't know if he's going to be able to take this bad dude down.
See, with a production, with a film, with a character who is so well known, right, who has such rich story like Batman, unfortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, like you're going to have to sell it to your audience, because your audience is very aware of this character, who this character is. They're very in tune to what they want to see from this character. Now, it's okay to depart from that a little bit and give the audience something they may not be used to, or give the audience a different perspective or a different take. But there are certain things that, if I'm a fan of Batman, right, and I'm going to go see this movie, I'm going to want to see from Batman. Maybe give me something I wasn't expecting, but don't fucking try and tell me that what I know about this character is not, is no longer like the reality of the character, right? Don't give me a skinny, non-violent Batman who's...
No, what I'm saying is...
Give me the Batman who's a detective, but can do the physical, can do the hand-to-hand combat.
What I'm saying is we've had so many different iterations of Batman, right? Like, so for instance, from the novel, the comic book novel, The Dark Knight. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, The Dark Knight Returns is what I meant to say. From that, we got a very sort of brutish Batman. He was very super like bulky, and he would just like fuck.
More so
people
Ben
up.
Affleck's Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. But we also get other times very sort of just sleuthy, skinny, sort of like this is just Batman flying around with the fucking repeller and shit. Not
Christian
necessarily
Bale's Batman. More
no, I wouldn't even say Christian, because Christian Bale's Batman was pretty. He was with the shits as far as like, you know, combat. If you're going to give me a different Batman, okay, give me something I haven't seen on screen before, or something that's different from the current or the latest iterations that we got. So from Christian Bale's Batman, we got somebody who may not have been that big as you say. Okay, fine, I'll grant you that. But then also, he's super well trained, you know, and was just looking for fights. Like, you know, he even fucked Bane up, you know. Although, you know, what's his name isn't Henry? What's his name?
Henry
The dude who played
Cavill.
Bane. No, the dude who played Bane.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. I'm sorry. He wasn't that big, but they made him look that big. But anyways,
Yeah, you shoot low angle. Tom Hardy got jacked for that role.
He
for sure.
got diesel,
But in real
also,
life, Tom Hardy's not a big guy.
5'2". But okay, so we got all that. Okay, give me something I haven't. What's the use of rebooting this franchise if you're literally just going to do that same thing that you did with Christian Bale,
Yeah.
that you try to do with Ben Affleck?
So I'll give you that.
There's
right?
no reason to do any of that. Look, give me something out of like a more detective Batman that I just haven't seen before, like where he's not trying to overpower people. He's simply just trying to outsmart them.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that because like there are three different versions of Batman, right? There's Bruce Wayne, who assumes the Batman role, right? Which was, I think, what we got from Christian Bale, right? And then there's Batman, who's disguised as Bruce Wayne, which is what we got from Ben Affleck. He was more Batman than he was Bruce Wayne, right? So I think, and then the third Batman is the Batman who's truly a detective, right? That's who he really is. He just happens to be, you know, Bruce Wayne, billionaire, right? And he uses the Batman costume as a way to protect his Bruce Wayne identity, protect who he is, fight crime, but in this like superhero kind of way. So
I would say the other way around. I would say he uses Bruce Wayne as protection for Batman.
yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, I think that's a good way. Either way, he's using either Bruce Wayne or Batman to protect himself, but in order to be the detective that he wants to be. Because either way, that's who he wants to be. And I think that's what this Robert Pattinson story is going to tell. It's going to tell Detective Batman, right?
Yeah.
Now, Detective Batman is going to have to throw hands with somebody.
He is.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to be, you got to kind of sell that to me a little bit.
So I think that's what I'm saying is like, I don't want it to just be him trying to overpower people. I want to see neat shit where it's just like, the way he beats people isn't by trying to like just simply pummel them to death.
Yeah.
But is more about just outsmarting them. So maybe he doesn't like just throw hands with somebody. Maybe if he's fighting like a bigger dude or whatever, maybe he just does something. So for instance, what was I was watching something. So I'm now getting into watching Dragon Ball Super. I started it from the beginning, and one of the things is Vegeta. It gets highlighted very sort of early in Dragon Ball Super, and even in Dragon Ball Z. I think at the end with the Majin Buu series, you see that Vegeta isn't as strong clearly as Goku, but I think he's actually a smarter fighter than Goku.
Yeah.
Goku's just strong, like and Goku's smart to his credit. He's a smart dude.
Because Vegeta's a trained warrior,
But
right?
Vegeta's a trained warrior, so if he can't outright beat you with power, he's going to beat you by outsmarting you. And that's one thing that I think is highlighted in Dragon Ball Super. And so they would do things that was like smart with Vegeta, like where he doesn't try, at least early on in the series, he's not trying to beat, because he can't beat certain people like just head up. So he then outsmarts them, which I find much more engaging than you're just stronger than any other person, because that's not really an engaging fight when you just pummel somebody to death. But what if somebody's stronger than you? What the fuck are you gonna do, right? And I think that this goes to where I'm at in terms of like right now, again, like I'm getting back into chess and I'm trying to like figure out like strategies and shit like that. It's just like I just find that so like intriguing of like, okay, if I can't just outright beat you, how the fuck do I win this game? Like, and in like the NFL, right? Like we're gonna go watch, some games later on today.
No, you're not. You're gonna put ornaments on the tree.
Yeah, put ornaments on the tree / watch football. I have a big streak. It'll be on. But in the NFL, all these dudes are big as fuck, and all of them are so fucking fast, and just everybody's kind of on the same level. So what do? The prize goes to who year after year is always there in the fucking conversation.
Tom Brady,
or more broadly speaking, the Patriots. The reason why they're there every year isn't because they were bigger, faster, stronger than any other team. It's because they just simply outsmart other teams.
Yeah, and the NFL is a machine, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's sure rigged to a certain degree, but yeah,
I think that Christian Bale's Batman in Dark Knight Rise is kind of an example of what you're talking about, right?
No, it's not.
So he was faced with his most, I think the Joker is, all in all, Batman's most prominent adversary.
Sure.
In the Joker, he's not some big guy who is known for.
That's when he had the most fucking difficult.
Yeah.
When he even
the Joker is
he even said it right in the Dark Knight, where he's beating the shit out of the Joker and he's trying to get this information. He's like, you have nothing to threaten me with. Like you, all those muscles, all those push-ups, and
never start with the head. They get fuzzy.
Foggy the brain up. So that was one of the most intriguing parts of the movie, because at that moment, if you're as the audience watching the film, you're like, fuck, he can't just beat the shit out of the Joker and get the information. What does he do?
Yeah.
The time is ticking and he can't do what he's done literally with everybody else. Like even early in the film, you see him throw the dude over the thing and break his legs. And that's how he got the information out of him that he was seeking. But now he's beating the shit out of the Joker. Joker's like, I don't care about all the fucking punches, all the whatever. You need to outsmart me. And he didn't. He lost, right? Rachel dies. Harvey Dent gets his face half blown off. That was the most intriguing part of the film. But when you talk about The Dark Knight Rises, he doesn't. He just recovers and then comes back and he beats Bane. To me, I've always had a problem with that, because it's like, what the fuck's actually changed in this scenario? Nothing's actually changed.
So here's what, again, so we're going to go from the Joker, right, to the Bane.
The Bane.
to Bane as the prominent villain, right? So with Joker, he had like an intellectual challenge, right? Here's a criminal who is very intentional, who's tactical, who's thoughtful, who is trying to outsmart me, and this person is actually a smart villain, right? To Bane, where Bane was also very
I think he was a tactician.
He was strategic, right? But at the end of the day, if you're in a room with Bane, there's not much you can do other than fight the guy, right? Mm-hmm. What did Bane say? Where he was like, theatricality and deception, they're all like great tricks or whatever. But, for a trained tactician or strategist like me, that's only going to go so far. Mm-hmm. And then he beat the shit out of Batman, right? Yeah. So like for me, that's where I'm going to need. I'm happy to see the Robert Pattinson, the detective Batman, but knowing the Batman villains as well as we do, and in this movie, as far as I understand, we're not going to get just one main villain; we're going to get several. Mm-hmm. So in this film, I think is going to be the Riddler. I think it's going to be Scarecrow, and I think it's going to be... I don't think
Scarecrow. I think it's just Riddler, at least what I've heard
Riddler,
so far,
Penguin,
and Catwoman.
So we're going to get 3 villains, all of them who have different skill, right? Now, none of them are known for, hand-to-hand combat, except for Catwoman. But there's going to come a time when he's going to need to be able to sell, that hand-to-hand combat aspect of Batman, who is a trained hand-to-hand. I mean, he studied under Ra's al Ghul, right?
Yeah, but
they are.
We had this conversation last week where we talked about
crime fighting motherfuckers.
This was we talked about it while we're watching.
They're actually criminals. But yeah. Anyway,
I understand what you mean. We were talking about Bruce Lee versus Mike Tyson, right? And I maintain that I think Bruce Lee would win that fight because I think he's just a better fighter overall than Mike Tyson. Whether you think Bruce Lee would win, whether you believe that Mike Tyson would win, okay, wherever you fall on that, great. But I think the main point to it is that Bruce Lee still stands a shot because although he's a vastly smaller guy, he knows what the fuck he's doing. And that's all. That's the only point that I'm making is that as long as you know what you're doing, you can have all the muscles in the world, but if you don't know how to fucking use them, what is it? Who says the line? All those muscles, and yet you're not using the one that counts. Who says that? It's a line from a movie.
Is it a superhero movie?
I think so.
It's a good line.
Damn.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I forget now, but I'll probably remember later. But yeah, and I've always loved that line because it's like, yeah, like that's mad true. Like you have so many fighters who just rely on brute strength alone, or so many scenarios, especially within the comic book world, that just rely on like, you know, somebody overpowering somebody else. But what happens when you meet somebody who you can't overpower? You know, you have to outsmart them.
And,
so that's my only.
And I definitely agree with that. But like even though we saw Ben Affleck's Batman who got jacked and he was big as fuck and he was fucking dudes up, right? He at a certain point still had to use his brain to outsmart, you know, Superman, right? To build the suit, to use the kryptonite, to give himself, you know, a fighting advantage, right? Or you know, fighting chance. So all in all, I'm happy to see this detective version of Batman played by Robert Pattinson. But you know, kid, you're gonna have to lift some weights in the gym. Learn to fight.
Long story short, lay off that vegan diet. You're gonna have to eat some meat. All right. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about somebody else who doesn't have a problem apparently getting jacked.